And the message from Burner, I believe, would be that every black person should please remember that you were Africans before you became anything else.
Oh God, it feels great hearing that every single time.
Every time. Hits.
I think we've
Hits.
heard that song like I can't even count how many times I've heard that song just listening to it myself, and it still feels like it's the first time.
My brothers get mad at me every time I play it because I've overplayed it.
They get mad?
Yeah, they get mad.
Oh, that's crazy. Nah.
But I'm like, listen, I don't care.
Yeah, nah, they need to chill with that. But if you do hear that intro, then you know that this is the African Connection podcast. This is your host, Drew. To my left, I got my guy, Benny, with me.
What's going on?
And we have a special guest today, our first guest on the African Connection podcast. We have Elizabeth in the building.
Yeah.
Thank you. Round of applause. We need to get that iPad with the soundboard. But thank you for joining us. Thank you for coming here and being on the podcast. So basically, we started this podcast because we wanted to go more in depth with African culture. Because, like we keep saying, it's way more relevant now in today's age than it was 10, 20 years ago, right. Especially in New York and in the USA in general. So we just wanted to have you on to talk, a little bit about yourself, where you're from and all that. So if you want to start with that.
All right. So I'm from Liberia, LIB. That's how we, rep ourselves.
Right.
So I moved from Liberia in 1996, due to the Civil War. We got evacuated. We moved to New York, first the city, and then we moved to upstate New York. We stayed there for like 3 years, stayed here for 3 years, and then we moved back because my dad was in he was into ministry, very religious, so he had his school and he had a church, so we had to move back. And then I moved back to New York for high school in 2003.
Got you.
Then I moved to Florida for high school for 2 years, then moved to Washington for college.
Washington State?
Yeah, Washington
Jesus
State.
Christ.
Yeah,
Okay.
so I was like all over the place.
Right. Journey.
And
Got
then,
another world traveler here.
Yeah, and then I was tired of Washington. My sister was here. She was working. I'm like, I hate Washington. It's raining all the time.
Right.
And I packed my things and I was like, I'm moving back to New York. And then I've been here since 2009. Yeah.
That's what's up.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Well, because Benny was in Florida too.
Really?
Yeah.
What part?
Yeah.
It was on the west side, Sarasota.
Oh.
It's like 45 minutes from Tampa. I don't know
Okay.
what it is. I mean, I guess I do know what it is with Africans in Florida. It's just the weather,
I lived in Orlando.
In Orlando. Oh man. Oh
Yeah.
man. I mean, I've been to Orlando probably like a handful of times. I wouldn't say it's my favorite Florida city.
Yeah, no.
But it's not. It's decent though. Like the Disney and all that kind of stuff. Like it's all cool. But to live, I don't know. I don't know what it's like to live. To visit, I mean, to visit is pretty cool.
Like if you're not
That's
from
why.
there and you visit, it's fine for once in a while. But
Yeah.
if you live there, Disney is
I'm sure
just
it's a different experience, right?
too much. Like I was in chorus and we have free tickets to Disney, so we went there all the time. And
Right.
I'm not a roller coaster person.
No,
Oh, yeah,
me neither.
yeah.
Me neither. No roller coasters
I am
over here.
afraid
I could do them.
heights.
I could do them.
No,
I could do them. They're fun sometimes.
Really?
Yeah, my long ass. I'll be fine.
No, I am afraid of heights. Don't put me on
I'm
a
not
Yeah.
afraid of heights, just roller coasters. I don't like that motion. That
Really?
movement. Nah,
Right.
Nope, not at all.
I mean, every time I get on one, as soon as I'm about to drop, I ask myself, why did I do this? Right? That's like what I go through. But I don't know. I could do it.
That's why I wouldn't do that. So how did that shape you? Like moving to different places and living just in America itself, and then we're gonna go back to
I think
Liberia.
I was used to it, but I think like I would make friends and then but I was so accustomed to leaving, so it's like I wasn't attached to them, it was easy for me to just like move around, so growing up I'm like I can move here and there and not be attached to anything, so but I think moving when I was young, I was 6 when we moved from Liberia, so it's like we moved from Liberia to New York, and I had an accent, because we speak English in Liberia, but there's an accent,
Yeah,
you know,
course.
it's like any other country.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Even here, people
So
speak English, but
I
it's
had to
different
learn
accents.
how to learn the American accent, and then after I learned the American accent, we went back to Liberia, and I had an American accent, and they, you know, they're like,
Yep.
oh,
Yeah.
you sound different, you know.
Yeah,
So it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
back and forth. But I think overall, you know, I got used to it. You know,
Right.
it's like something I was accustomed to. You know, I didn't think it was like I wasn't stable because we moved back and forth. You know, we were that family missionary, you know, just moving back and forth. So, you know, I made friends, but I wasn't really attached to my friends. So, yeah, I don't know.
I feel like I can really relate to that, right?
Yeah.
Because that whole, like, you know, sense of attachment comes from, like, you know, those people you see that, you know, have lived in the same place their whole lives, and like they know these people from when they were super young and all that kind of
Right.
stuff. Like, I don't know what any of that's like. You get me? Like,
Yeah,
I was here, there. So it's like it's real easy, especially, and now as adults it shapes us because like we're on the go.
Right.
It's very easy for us to just you know pick up and go 1, 2, 3. And I guess there's
Yeah.
pros and cons to that, but. It's interesting, you know, people
Yeah.
that are like that.
No, I totally agree because like some of my friends like, oh, I knew my friend since I was like 1 in kindergarten. I'm
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, and they still talk and they're still
Yeah.
chatting. You're like,
no,
nah.
I don't really.
But I guess we also got lucky with with like, you know, Facebook, right? I'm sure like you guys still have people that you keep in contact with Facebook.
I don't really use Facebook.
Really?
no.
That's interesting.
Nope.
Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like the people that like were in those different places that I left.
Yeah.
I connected with them through Facebook. Now, as we're older, it's like Instagram and maybe we meet up, you
Right.
know,
Yeah.
like, you know, but like it was Facebook.
Yeah, before I used Facebook, and it's like, oh, I met you, you know,
Yeah.
a while ago.
Or the birthday comes up or something
yeah.
like that,
Or somebody
right?
reach out to me like I knew you back in elementary
Yeah.
school. I'm like,
yeah.
I
Like,
don't
what?
remember you. But, yeah.
Right.
But I keep saying the problem with Facebook is that it didn't account for like new friends they would make. It was just like, oh, I talked to it was like older people they talked. They're like, oh, you know, Jimmy from, you know, we went to college in 1990. Like,
Right.
But for us, it was like we talked to our old friends, like just be like, oh, I remember you. And then it was kind of like, oh, that's
Right.
it. And then
Right,
you just
right,
move on
right.
to new friends and new life that you have and everything like that. So that's why it's not. Like I haven't really kept in contact with a lot of people from back home, from in Canada. But yeah, just being able to move a lot has definitely like it makes you appreciate the world for what
Yeah.
it is.
It's very
because
true.
a lot of people who are here, they just know what they have in front of them,
Very
and
true.
they don't take into account what's happening
Good
on the
point.
other side of the world.
And they don't care to know. They don't
they don't
Right.
want to.
They don't want to
That's-
know, right? That's the biggest
That's the
issue.
crazy part. Like
Yeah,
you don't
yeah.
want to know.
100%.
Like,
Well, and then it also makes you open-minded too.
Yeah,
you know,
without a
as-
doubt.
Like I love New York, but New Yorkers, they're not really open-minded as to like traveling. Like some friends, they, you know, some of my friends, they do travel, but like a lot of people are like New York or die.
Yeah.
You
Right,
know, so
right.
like I think when you grow up traveling around, you're open-minded and you're open-minded to like diversity and, you know, learning new things. So,
and you're not
yeah.
scared.
Right.
Like that's a lot of it comes from fear of not knowing what's
sure.
what the other side is or
Without a
what's
doubt.
there. You're just like you're so comfortable in your own place.
Yeah.
That you're just like, no, I'm good. Y'all can stay over here. But like the fact that it happens with people in their own country,
Yeah.
that's the crazy part. Like it's not even overseas now. Now it's like if you see, because like in America, a lot of like we talked about when you were in DC, like there were a lot of Ethiopians there. Like they have their
Tons.
they have like a
Shout out to my
a
Ethiopians in
neighborhood and
DC.
a community. Shout out to everybody in DC.
Right.
They have their own community where they live.
Yeah.
And so even in that area, like especially in the South, you might have other people who are not accustomed to that, and they just in that own state, like they'll just leave them alone. And then it's like they have their place, we have ours, and that's the way it is. Like people still want to segregate the whole country. It'd be like minorities on the left and then
Right.
all white people on the right. I'm like,
Well, I was
that's
gonna
crazy.
say, to your point, like you said that New Yorkers like don't want to travel. I think that's more of a more national issue in the United States,
Yeah.
right? Like I think we've talked about it before. I think in the U.S. is so large. Like we forget how big
Yeah.
this country is, right? So like if you want to go see mountains, it's here.
Yeah.
You want to go see the ocean, it's here. You want to go see like like you don't have to travel. You don't really have to travel anywhere to see some of these things,
Right.
but you should. You get me? And like that's
Yeah.
that's the issue, because it's like, yo, I'll just go to Montana or something, or I'll just go to California, or
For
I'll just go
better
to
weather, yeah.
You feel me? Like you have all that in this huge ass country, but like it's not the same because
Yeah.
it's just not the same as traveling overseas or seeing a totally different culture. Like cultures can differ state to state, but when it's country to country, it's a whole different ballgame.
100%. Where did you first move to when you came to New York?
I like moved what state? I mean,
When
what
you-
city?
Like which city? Yeah.
We actually moved to Syracuse.
Oh wow,
Oh,
you
that's
in
different.
Yeah.
proper
Oh,
upstate.
And let me tell you, we moved.
that's the mountains.
yeah, that's
We came in December.
hey.
Yes. Let me tell you, December.
Yo, that just hurt me. Like hearing
Can you
that.
imagine being a
from
little
Liberia
child
to-
coming from a tropical,
Yeah.
you know,
Climate.
climate, very warm. December in my country, it's like summer.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, man.
Yep.
yeah.
That's crazy.
And
Damn.
we came to JFK. We landed in JFK. I'm telling you, I thought I was gonna die.
Yeah.
We're like, what
The
is this?
shock, the cold, and just like hearing people, their accent
Right,
and everything.
confusion.
It's like, you know, but yeah, Syracuse. We lived in upstate for a while, and then we moved to Brooklyn. You know, yeah, I went to elementary school in Brooklyn. Just back and forth, like.
Now, had you had any family in the States previously, or had your
Yeah,
parents
my
been?
uncle.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my dad used to come back and forth.
I was gonna say, had he been here before? Right.
Because he was a missionary, very religious.
Right.
Like, I grew up in a religious home.
Yeah.
Like going to church 5 days a week.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Pastor. So like he.
Oh my God.
Yeah, so he would come here back and forth, and so and then also my mom was in the she was in the U.S., so she worked in the Air Force and everything. So
Okay.
the reason why we got evacuated because she was American citizen.
Okay.
You know.
I see.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Gotcha.
So
Crazy.
yeah. And we came to New York. It was just like a culture shock, especially for a young child.
For
And there
sure.
were 6 kids.
Yeah.
No.
6.
Yeah,
Yo,
6.
I commend your parents.
I'm the youngest of 6.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So taking like 6 kids around.
How old was the oldest when you guys moved?
How old was she? She's 10 years older than me. So, gosh, I don't.
It's crazy.
Yeah, I think she was like either like 14 or
Yeah.
You know,
So she was a baby still.
Yeah, but it was crazy.
That's
Yeah.
crazy, man. I commend your parents, because that's like one of the hardest things ever. On top of that,
yeah.
you guys left like on like a. It's not like your decision to leave.
No, it must.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like at all. So that's like even
Yeah, if you
another
heard-
layer of.
Yeah. The Liberian Civil War was like crazy. I'm sure you know you're from Africa.
Yeah,
you know,
we've
when
heard.
it's like Civil War. It's not like pretty. Da, da, da.
Yeah,
There's
no.
like
Bloodshed.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But it
That's
was
crazy.
It was shocking, but we adjusted, and you know.
Yeah.
Did you have family back in Liberia still, like while the war
Yeah.
was going on?
Yeah.
Like, did you contact them? Did you hear about the war? Like, or you were so young that you didn't
Well, in 1996, I don't remember a lot
Right.
because I was like very young.
Yeah.
But then the war started again in 2003.
Wow.
And I was old enough to know what was going on, you know. So, like, I had like a few family members, you know, that got killed, and you know,
Crazy.
so
Sorry to hear that.
Jeez.
yeah, no,
Yeah, that's how it goes, right?
yeah,
Damn.
you
That's
know,
wild.
But
When you were in Brooklyn and you were trying to like get accustomed to the culture and stuff, like what were some of the things you had to get accustomed to, like going to school in Brooklyn?
well, I think also because coming from upstate. Being
yeah.
in New York City, like just like trains, like you're
Yeah.
so
Two
used to
different
it.
worlds,
That
right?
already
Yeah.
is yeah.
Yeah, upstate you're like driving everywhere. Now
Right.
you have to like either walk or
Train.
take the
Take the
trains
train,
and everything, and just
God forbid the bus.
right. And just New York City in general is a tough place to live. Like,
Yeah.
You know,
For
like
sure.
coming from Liberia is already tough. Like you're used to it, but like New York City in of itself is like just tough. You have to be tough. You have
It's
to
a different kind of
you
tough,
know,
right?
yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was just like my friends too. They were, you know, not sarcastic, but you know, New Yorkers are very sarcastic. Like you like the way they joke and just everything.
You gotta have tough skin.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and
Gotta
then
have tough
back
skin.
then, like
Yeah, it's
Oh,
probably
back
even
then?
worse.
African, like,
Yeah. Yup.
Actually,
being African wasn't.
It wasn't cool.
Like, it wasn't cool.
you know, I would love for you to speak on that, right? Because
Yeah.
that's something I'm really curious about, and that's something I didn't really grow up with because all of my schooling that was in the States was when I was older and I was a little more conscious of like where I came from. So if somebody was saying something, they weren't saying it to my face because they understood, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like it's not gonna go down like that. So, but when you're younger, you don't have that confidence. You
Right.
don't have that understanding. You just kind of absorb all these mean things that people are saying, and like through like culture, I've heard like, you know, like growing up African in the States, it's super hard. So if you could talk about that a little bit, that's really interesting to
Well,
me.
in upstate, like I grew up with a lot of white friends,
Right.
So they weren't. I've never like experienced racism like directly
Like
from
blatant
blatantly.
racism. Yeah.
It's
Subtle.
racism when I was like in New York with black, you know, like African American black kids.
Right.
That's where I experienced it.
Yeah.
You know, like
That's
you
interesting.
either call me like Kunta Kente, you
Yeah,
know,
yeah,
like
yeah,
just
yeah.
like different like names, African booty scratcher,
Right.
you know,
Right,
like,
right.
you know. So that's where I experienced the racism,
Interesting.
you know,
Interesting.
but you know, and just trying to hide your accent, like
Yeah.
Yeah.
because when I was young, I had an accent, but I picked it up really quickly, the American accent, you know.
Yeah.
Like when you're young, it's easier for you
Much
to
super
pick,
easy.
yeah. So, but like just trying to hide the fact that you're African, and then my name, my middle name, like I just didn't want people
Which
to
is
Maui,
nice.
Mawi. It's just like something I was like, no, I don't like that name. It like shows that I'm African, you know.
Yeah.
And but you know, it's just like back then, it was like very scary to be an African, like, because it made it seem like you're less than.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah,
And nobody
so-
likes feeling like that, for
Right.
sure.
You know, especially with being a little child, you know, it's like you don't feel like you are, you know, so, you know, you don't fit in, you know, so.
Yeah.
Yeah. And we talked about that before, where a lot of times it comes from our people. It's not
Right.
white people, because
Right.
they might be scared to say anything. They don't
Yeah.
want that problem or that conflict. But us, like, we're just like, oh, you're this, you're that, and so they don't understand. It goes back to understanding. They don't understand like the culture, the heritage. So it's like out of ignorance that, you know, and of course kids tease, like they love to tease everybody, but
Right.
then it, you know, it could be really hurtful to
Kids
to
can
go
be
through that.
brutal, man.
Yeah.
They can be worse than adults sometimes. You get me? Because adults are a little, you know, but kids can be brutal.
Yeah.
They're just truthful. Well, not truthful, but they don't, no filter.
They
Rather,
just,
I'll put it that
I
way.
think they also say what they are, you know, what they hear.
And what they know
You know,
at the
and
time.
they can't process like whether or not it's like
Truthful,
me, you know,
right.
truthful, and it's gonna hurt somebody. They know it's gonna hurt somebody's
Yeah,
feelings,
no
but
filter.
they don't
Yeah,
care.
no
But
filter.
you know, because that's
Yeah.
what they're used to. You
Yeah,
know,
Yeah,
yeah,
just
so,
entertaining.
Yeah.
Did you go to school with your brothers and sisters?
yeah, I did.
Oh, okay.
We all went to the same school.
Okay.
Did y'all
You know.
fight
Did that help?
A little, but we were heavily involved in sports.
Okay.
So like soccer.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
my mom was like a soccer mom.
That's what's up.
Yeah, so but it was cool because my brothers, they play sports, and you know,
Right.
nobody could really pick on me, and you know, cause
Yeah,
they were
yeah.
kind of cool
Yeah.
because they play soccer and they were like the
Yeah, the
you know,
cooler
cool-
kids, right?
Yeah, cooler kids.
Got
But
you.
that was elementary. And then in high school, we went to school together. But you know, high school is different.
Yeah.
you know,
Everybody
'cause-
gets their group.
yeah,
Mhm.
pretty much. So, but I mean, I was involved in sports. You know, I was just shy person. You know, I was very
got you.
shy, but I got along with everyone at the same time because I like played sports, and you know,
Yeah.
but the high school experience was interesting because, you know, I was with my brothers and sisters, but at the same time I wanted to just be in my own lane, but they always associated me with my siblings,
Right.
you know, but
Oh,
it's
yeah,
hard
yeah.
to find your identity when
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
so
When you have your siblings.
Good point.
I understand that.
It's true.
Did your parents like, what did you tell your parents like while you were going through all this, like at home? Like, did you go like, yo, this person said this person, or you
no,
just
no,
like
no.
no?
No,
Right.
I always kept things to myself, you know.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I was like that type of person. I never really like express my feelings to, and especially like within Africa.
Yeah,
I don't know
African
if
parents.
you guys experience that. Maybe it's different for you, but like it's hard to like express yourself to, you know, African parents or siblings, because you're like they when you
It's
try
not about
to
feelings.
yeah,
Not about
when you
feelings.
try to express yourself, oh, that's a white thing.
Yeah,
You know,
yeah.
you trying to be too white, like
Yeah.
you know, you
Yeah.
have that white mentality, or you know, just deal with it, or
Yeah.
you know,
I think it's a lot of that. It's a lot of
Yeah.
just deal with it. Like, especially
Yeah.
having like first generation, when your parents are directly from Africa and you're
Yeah.
first generation of, you know,
right?
you've lived in a different country, you see different things that they didn't grow up with. Like, they,
Yeah.
like some of this, like if I try to tell my dad about like a struggle that I had, he's like, bro, do you understand how I had to go
Right.
get water, like you like to do
facts.
anything I needed to do,
Yeah.
Facts.
and you're complaining about this? Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
It's crazy,
No,
right?
that's how it is. Like
Mhm.
even now, like when I'm telling my sister something, like, oh, you know, like therapy or something. Oh, that's white.
Yeah,
you
therapy,
acting
yeah.
white, man.
Yeah,
you know
yeah,
why you
yeah.
acting white?
Yeah,
you know,
yeah, yeah.
so yeah, it's,
Crazy.
yeah, everything is white. Like
Yeah,
you know, if
yeah,
you're
yeah.
trying to be very like emotional, it's like, oh, that's white people thing.
Yeah,
you know,
yeah,
don't
yeah,
you
yeah,
know
yeah.
deal
That's
with
true.
it. You know, so
Yeah, that's definitely something that's being, you know, held up in conversation just online and things like that, just about, you know, black people in general, about just being more open and
Right.
vulnerable and telling people how you feel, and especially your parents, because that's who you come home to every single day, and your brothers and sisters, because that's like the people you have to talk. They have your back all the time. So like, you know, when you kind of get that backlash, then you know you're gonna be a little bit more reserved and things like that. So yeah, so that's something that even with our kids, like I don't want my kids to ever feel like that. Like I don't want them to feel like they can't come to me and
Right.
talk to me whenever they need to. Like I always want to be there
Yeah.
to you know, to talk to them. And of course therapy is like, for a kid, that's not something that I would be like, go do.
right.
But you know, when you're older, that's something that, you know, could be a possibility. So then after high school there, you went to college in Washington.
Yeah.
What made you go to Washington?
So actually, my best friend lived in Washington. She's like, "Oh, you should come live here." So I'm that type of person. Like I would get up and just like go anywhere.
Right.
You know?
You're used to
So-
it.
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
it doesn't even bother me because I'm like, okay, it's a new experience.
Yeah,
and,
yeah.
You know, so I moved to Washington and we lived together and I went to school there.
Crazy.
Yeah.
What school?
So I went to University of Washington, Tacoma. So I went to TCC, which is like a community college, and then I went to UW-T. Yeah. So I study liberal arts, and
Yeah.
then I thought I loved kids, and I wanted to do like teaching, early education.
Right.
I did that, and I was like, yeah, I
Kids are
don't
kind of
know.
annoying.
Like I really like mine. I was like, I want to be a nanny, and you know,
yeah, yeah.
watch kids. You know, I saw Nanny Diaries. Have you seen that movie? No.
I
I was
haven't,
like, yeah, that's my dream job.
Yeah.
But you know, kids are
A handful.
a handful, and I was like, no, so but then when you move back to New York, it's like fashion, and you are like, I work for like Prada and everything.
Okay.
So that was
That's what's up.
yeah.
Did you always like fashion? Was that something that you were into?
Like I feel like as a female, like fashion, growing up, like seeing like movies and everything, that's like your dream, and then
Right.
you're moving here and you're like, oh, fashion is everything. New York, it's
Yeah.
like fashion is a huge influence,
Yeah, yeah, 100%.
it's like
Every borough.
Yeah, each borough has their own style.
right. And just like it's an easy thing to do, especially in New York. It's a quick job to find, like working in fashion. You can easily get a job in
Yeah.
fashion, So like, and that's why ever since I've been in like fashion. But I don't know. I like fashion, but I don't think that's what I want to do. It's not like a passion for me. So yeah,
Do you know what it is that you want to do?
I feel like, and it's crazy. I'm currently like I just joined the NAACP.
Nice.
So I want to be a social activist. Like I
That's
want
what's
to
up.
help people. Like and it's something that unexpectedly happened
Yeah.
because never in a million years that I wanted to be associated with like power to the people.
Yeah.
Black power and
Yeah.
everything. But it's just something that happened like last year. And I think it was like. It's my calling and my passion
That's what's up.
to, just be vocal about like social justice and helping people who are underprivileged and just like, helping the Black community, and my people too in Liberia. So, yeah.
That's dope.
Yeah.
Especially with that Malcolm poster right to your left.
Right.
That's kind of exactly.
Yeah.
That kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah.
But so while you were did you like research anything, like go back and look at historical facts in not only in America, of course, but in Africa as well, because they're it's not talked about, or we don't really talk about them, but there's multiple social activists in Africa who have done stuff. So like, have you researched that or anything like that?
In Africa, I haven't researched who like the social activists in Africa, but I've been growing up, I was always like, okay, I'm not Black, I'm African, I don't want to associate myself with Black, especially like I feel like Africans when they come here, it's like, oh, I'm African, they don't want to unite with the Black community. I mean, younger generation, it's easier for them because it's like, it's easier to mesh with the Black Americans, but like older people and just like, oh, we're Africans, and sometimes we kind of look down on Black Americans because we don't want to associate ourselves with that pain that they suffer and just like their attitude. Right. So that's always been my thinking. And I just realized that, Liberia in general was founded by free slaves, so basically they were free and, American colonization society felt like, oh, we can't have Black free slaves living with white people, so we're gonna have them go back to Africa, so they founded the society and they, like, oh, we're gonna have a bunch of them go back. And some Black people were like, since we're not gonna get appreciated for our work and whatever, we're not gonna make it in America, so why not go back? So that's how Liberia was founded, and they went back to Africa, West Africa.
I didn't know that. So
And so Liberia basically is liberty. That's what it means, and so
that's deep.
Right,
That's deep.
That's great.
no,
crazy. I
it's
didn't know that.
crazy. And all this time I was like, I don't want to be associated with Black Americans, and 7 of our first presidents for Liberia was born in the U.S.
Wow.
They, so
Really?
even our flag is a replica of America.
Yeah.
The only difference is we have 1 star,
Uh,
and our Pledge of Allegiance, the same as America. Like, it's basically they wanted
what they
to
learned and-
duplicate. Yeah. It's like a duplicate of America. So, like, learning my history, it's so crazy. As I'm learning, I'm like, wow. And all this time, I did not want to be
Yeah, that's really
associated
interesting.
with
I
Black
didn't know that.
Americans. So, after, and that was a year ago that I started learning all of this, and I'm like, wow, this is interesting. Now I feel like I have to tell other people about this.
You do.
So
I mean, you're blowing my mind right now. I didn't know that. Like, I had no idea. I did not
lot
know
of
that about
people don't
Liberia
know
at all
that.
whatsoever.
Yeah,
I didn't even know that there were African nations that were made.
Yeah, so
By free
Liberia
slaves.
is the
I didn't
first
know that.
colony
That's crazy.
of America, and I think it's the only colony in Africa, and it's the oldest republic in Africa.
Wow.
Yeah, so
That's crazy. Because I knew that they did send slaves back and things like that, but I didn't know that they founded a whole
That's what's
country.
up.
yeah.
That's crazy.
That's crazy to
Yeah.
me. That actually, what you said actually, I had a question in my mind. Something I was thinking about and segued actually perfectly is the difference between an African coming over to America and an African American, right? Like, you see the difference me personally, so my philosophy, honestly, you kind of shook it a little bit because I didn't know this about Liberia, but like I always thought like there was a certain level of power that came with knowing that that I didn't, I guess that like my ancestors were in Africa. You know what I mean? Like both my like Ethiopia in and of itself was like never colonized.
Right.
So that's like in and of itself. And then Nigeria, like my heritage goes back a long time and like in Africa. So I may have had ancestors that were slaves, but that was like way back. You get me? You knowing that your country was made by free, you know what I mean? Like, and that's crazy to me because like that's like a whole other level, different level of, you know what I mean?
It's very empowering. It's so crazy. Like Liberia has so many influences because it's made by free slaves,
right?
And that's that's the main thing. But also Caribbean people. A lot of people from Barbados went to Liberia.
Came over. Wow.
Yeah. And then the captives. So basically, the people who were sailing to go and slave trade.
Yeah.
They were captives and they sent them to Liberia because they wanted to stop the slave trade. So they're indigenous people, free blacks, Caribbean, and other African free captives. You know, so we have like a mixture of and I don't know, I feel like that's why I want people to know that, you know, especially Black Americans.
Yeah.
You know, they now, you know, everyone wants to be African now. That's the whole trend.
Oh, it's a whole new wave now.
You know, it's like
can't stop this one.
You know,
it's a whole new wave now.
You know, everybody's going to Ghana, Nigeria.
Yeah.
And you know, it's so crazy. I was talking to my friends about it. I'm like, I was kind of upset that everyone want to go to Ghana and Nigeria. In Ghana. I was like, you have Liberia.
Right.
You know, like I want people to know, like they, you know, a lot of Black Americans don't feel connected to Africa. They're like, oh, I don't have any roots in Africa.
The biggest issue, I think.
But I'm like, if you know your history and you know how Liberia started,
you'd feel a connection.
You know, you have a connection to Africa. And basically, I want to start a community, a platform. So it's going to be my middle name, which I hated growing up, Mawi.
Does it mean anything?
Huh?
Does it mean something?
So
Mawi, what does it mean, rather?
Actually, I was researching. I'm like, what is Mawi? Like, so it's basically a town in Liberia, and it's Mawi Lake. It's called Mawi Lake, and they named me after that. So, so it's gonna be Maui Connection. So basically, uniting Black Americans and Liberians together by knowing their history. Wow! So it's like uniting the two worlds.
Yeah.
You know, so,
no, that's sick.
Yeah.
That's sick.
That's crazy. I actually, have you been to an NAACP meeting?
Yes, my first meeting was last Tuesday. Yeah.
Got you.
It was interesting, you know, because the average age in the NAACP is 61.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's the problem.
Wow.
Yeah. My mentor actually, she enrolled me to be. I haven't gone to a meeting because I work every
Midtown,
at night.
Branch or Bronx.
I forget exactly which one. Well, one they spelled my name wrong, so I'm like, all right.
Wait, how do you say Andrew?
No, Allers, my last name, Alers. They put Akers, but I'm like, all right. Okay. But I work at night, so then that's why I haven't been able to make like any of the events and stuff like that. But I've wanted to go for a minute now.
Yeah, y'all going to put me on.
No, you should. 100%. Everyone should join the NAACP. Yes. You know, no, I think it's very like important too because as the new generation, and that's the thing, like. So I'm in a program called the Next Gen, NAACP Next Gen. So it's basically from 25-year-old to 41-year-old, because there's so many, you know, there's the older generation, you know, but they're trying to get a new wave. Of,
I mean, they have their own way of thinking, right? Like
young adults, and we wanna, you know. Like, we know how it's supposed to be. Well, they know how it's supposed to be, but there's just that new, like you said,
mentality.
Different mentality.
100%.
And there's so many young people that needs to know, you know, about their history and just like fighting social justice, not just what you see on Instagram or like the next post or caption. You know, there's so many things that we need to fight, you know, like in your city, and just like elections coming up, and you know, just all that good stuff.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
We talked about old age last podcast, about how a lot of people in positions of power, they're older, and then they might have, like you said, different way of thinking of you know, thinking that they had back then.
Right.
Because the NAACP, that was, it, you know, was founded here, and it's for people here, and all that stuff. But now people are trying to figure out where they're from.
Right.
So if we could bring that, you know, that energy and that perspective and that side to the NAACP, then we could definitely change it for, you know, because it hasn't been changed. Like, you know, back in the 80s, 90s, like you said, it wasn't cool to be African. Now, you know, Afrobeats, and now everybody, you know, Afrochella, and everybody wants to go that back to
African diaspora, you know, just it's just. No, it's important. So if you want to join, hey.
Definitely look into it. Definitely look into it 100%. Without a doubt.
And I think that's the reason why they're doing, this is the next NAACP Next Gen. It's a new thing. They started in 2018 because they know.
Yeah, they knew it was coming. Right.
You need a fresh perspective, and you know, young adults who are going to, you know, lead the next, you know, wave. Yeah. So.
Speaking of, like, you know, the next wave, we spoke a little bit about how we've kind of been watching this wave of like being African, being cool, because I remember when it wasn't. We all remember when it wasn't, right? But now we're like in the middle of it, where like we're still in that transition phase. I think it's all the way cool for everybody in this country, and it's cool to some, cool to not. I'm interested to hear your perspective on it, because I mean, me and Drew have talked about it a bunch. You know, like. Now I can go to work and I can wear my, you know what I'm saying, African Nigerian shirt or whatever, and I'm like cool with that, you know, like, but as a middle schooler, like you said, I was trying to hide my middle name. Like, I didn't want to say it. What's your middle name? Don't have one. You know damn well you have one. You know what I mean? Like, I have one. 100%. Like, I have one. So, if you could talk about that, that'd be...
I have a, like, mixed feeling about it, because I'm like, okay, when I was... young, you used to. You
I didn't care, right?
Yeah, you used to call me names and all of that.
Right.
Now, since Afro beats and everything, now you want to, you know. But I think it's kind of good in a way, because it's unity. People are coming together, and that's the most important thing. You know, like, people want to know about their history, you know, and their background. You know, I mean, some people are just doing it because it's cool. That's fine. But there's also good in it, because they want to know more. If you learn Afrobeats, you know, there's Google. People are
start Googling things,
you know, Googling things, and like,
for sure,
you know, like the whole Ghana thing, the year of the return, people are going back. They're knowing about their history. Even though I was like kind of angry that they're not going to Liberia, but people are going back. They want to learn, you know. There's, you know, years ago it was bad. They were calling us names and everything, but it's crazy how the world turns. You know,
tables turn.
Like ironic that now people want to be African, and you know, so, but I think, you know, even though, like, I'm sad what happened, but everything happens for a reason. Now they're lifting us up. You know, we are, you know, the face of Africa. You know, everybody wants to be African. So
that's true.
I think soon it'll get to the point where, you know, like you said, people didn't come to Liberia this time, right? But soon it'll get to the point where, like, we're all going to, like, oh, let me go to, you know what I'm saying, Zimbabwe. Let me go to, you know, Liberia. Let me go to, you know, boom, boom, boom. As people now are going to France and Italy and Germany and all that kind of stuff. And I can't wait for that, because that's crazy.
Like, I want to go to every single country in Africa.
Bro, it's
every single one.
Like, the air is different. The water is different. The food, it's crazy to me. Every time I go back, I'm mind blown.
I think also the way that Africa has been portrayed. Like, even when
that's
you
our
see
number one
like
issue.
Commercials,
that's our number one issue.
You know,
because we don't control those, right?
Yeah,
we don't have any control
like,
over what they show.
When people hear Africa, like, they see like the little kid with the big stomach, or
Yeah,
the flies,
yeah.
and just like
true.
Yeah,
poverty.
just
yeah,
But
yeah.
like Africa in general has so many resources.
Why you think they came there, right? Like that's always my next thing when somebody says that to me. I'm like,
Yeah.
so why you think all these countries came there if there's nothing there?
and stayed.
You know
That's
what I
the
mean?
other thing.
Yeah,
It's one
like, I
thing
don't
to go,
understand.
and then now they're
Explain
still
that to me.
here. They're still
Yeah.
in Africa.
So I
It's
think
just slick now.
the way we have to be the change.
Yeah, 100%.
We're the ones who have to show them. Listen,
It's our generation.
yeah,
Yeah.
Africa is not what you were taught. That it was.
Right.
Or weren't taught.
Yeah, exactly.
Or weren't taught,
You
right.
know, so I think going forward, we have to be like the voice, and just teach people, that obviously like music has taken over, they're through music, they're learning that,
Africa's
True.
yeah.
Yeah, even for the damn podcast, like Matthew comes in, like he's like, "Yo, Afro, like, have you heard this and that?" We were talking about Rima. It's like, "Yo,
Yeah.
he's dope and stuff."
Yeah,
So like
yeah.
everybody's learning and everybody's picking it up more and more now.
It's those driving forces though, right?
Yeah.
Like it's like music
Yeah.
and sport.
Music, sport.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like those things are like huge driving
Right.
forces, and like globally, and like they connect people very easily. Like those are the
Yeah,
biggest
I mean,
things.
if you want to continue with sport, and we talked about the national soccer team of France.
That's what I'm saying. They're all African, bro. That was Team Africa. That was Team Africa, bro. It was crazy.
But they're in France, so they're called.
But they're but they're French.
The other Africans,
And
they're
it's-
not French.
But and then it's the same thing with the Olympics,
Yeah.
Like-
oh, come on, bro. Every time.
basketball.
Yeah, bro. Basketball, sprints. long
Everybody on
distance.
the American basketball team is black.
Yeah.
But then when you come here, there's so many injustice
Yeah.
to like black Americans or just black people in general. But when you go to the Olympics, it's like, yes,
You're
I
the
love
best.
America,
Right.
but they forget that we're being treated like crap here,
Yeah,
so
definitely.
Like it doesn't even matter how big of like you get too. Like I remember the one thing that like shook me to the core was the one year that LeBron he lived in Miami and somebody spray painted the N-word on his door, right? Like
Yeah, I remember that.
seeing like what you said, like in the Olympics, this guy's a god. You can't
Right.
touch him, you can't say nothing to him because he's representing America.
Right.
He comes back and then that's what they do? Like that blows my like it doesn't matter what level you get to, like this shit
Right.
is deep rooted, you know?
Yeah.
and to
crazy.
and that's why
Crazy.
I feel it's important, as Africans, because we do come here and we know we're black, obviously. When
Yeah.
we're walking down the street with another black person, they're not gonna say, "Oh, you're African" or
Yeah.
"You're Black American."
Right.
They can't unless you're wearing like a head wrap or
Yeah,
something.
yeah,
That's
yeah,
the
yeah.
only way they would
Yeah.
know. But I think it's very important that Africans learn Black American history and vice versa.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a
You
very
know,
good
for
point.
sure.
It's a very good
Because
point.
you can't live in the United States and say, "Oh, I don't associate with Black Americans," when you are Black yourself. Like when the cops come, they're
don't
trying, or
Yeah.
they're not gonna know the difference.
Yeah, they can't tell it. Oh, and we
Like-
came from the same
Right.
continent. Like
And I
same.
think
people,
it's
man.
very
Yeah.
important because if you know the history, you you will be united, and that's the thing. Like even during slavery, the whites hated when two people were standing together, because they were united. They
Yeah.
were
Yeah.
afraid of what they could do,
Right.
So if you come together and you learn each other's history, that's power.
Nah,
100%.
So
100%.
I think it's very important to
Yeah.
learn each other's history.
I agree with
Yeah,
that.
and
Yeah.
especially in all aspects, because in either one, you choose African history, you choose African American history.
Right.
They don't teach you everything. I
Right.
never learned about Malcolm X in school. I just knew him. I knew his name.
Right.
I knew he was an activist of some sort, and boom, that's it. But then it was in college actually that I read, and I read like 3 books about him and stuff, and watched the movie with Denzel
Yeah.
and Spike Lee that came out in '92. Like that's when I learned more, and that's I did it myself. And if you help another person and teach another person,
Right.
and that's just an extension. Then they help somebody else, and then that's how it goes.
Right.
It's a snowball effect basically, and like we said, knowledge is power. And going back to what you said about the treatment of Black people, like I keep thinking about this shirt that Andre 3000 wore at a concert. It says, "Across cultures, darker people suffer most." Why? And it's not just in America. Even if you go to the Middle East, Black people are treated worse. If you go to Europe, Black people are treated like everywhere. India. Oh, India.
Like if you're darker.
Africa. It happens in Africa too.
Yeah.
Even in Asia, like Chinese,
Yeah.
like Koreans, they try to lighten the skin. They try, it's like being dark. It's
Yeah, it's like a bad thing.
Yeah.
No, 100%. It's true.
Yeah, it's like a curse.
Happens everywhere, man.
It's like,
It happens everywhere. It's perceived as a curse, right? We can't say it's not a curse. It's perceived as a curse, but that's just kind of how
now
it's
when
shaped.
I'm like in a photo shoot or whatnot, I'm like, make me darker.
Yeah, you get me? Like all of it.
Like,
Get the all the
I don't-
melanin. Every cell, please. All of that.
Don't change
Yeah.
a thing.
Nah, 100%.
Yeah. When was the last time you were back in Liberia?
2003.
Wow, wow,
You
wow.
haven't been back yet?
Mm.
Oh.
Alright. And I always like, I'm gonna go back, but
Yeah.
I'm hoping this year, December,
Yeah.
Are you doing the reverse? You said I'm going back to the heat in December.
Right.
You came in the cold in December.
No, because December is like the lit
Summertime.
time.
Yeah.
Everyone's
Exactly.
like the beaches, people
Yeah.
are partying,
Yeah.
and and rainy season. I really don't want to go during
Nah.
the rainy season. And it's not like rainy
much going on.
season, it's like monsoon.
Yes, constantly for 20
Do is it the same in
Cameroon?
Cameroon?
Yeah, it was like that. Because we go back in August because that's our break, and so like we'd go back and visit and stuff, and it was just rain every single second. And then once we went back in December, I was like, "This is a different heat." I was like, "I've never."
It was the first time I ever went back to Nigeria was like recently in the rainy season, and it was. It was cool to see because everything is crazy green.
Yeah.
Like it's green everywhere.
Same with Liberia.
Yeah, and like you don't like picture that, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm never there during rainy season. I'm always there in December time. But like when I went for the first time during rainy season, I was like, this is crazy. Like it's everywhere. It was so green, bro. I felt like I was literally in a forest. It was just green and sand. You know what I mean? I was like, that's a crazy
Pick one.
It's what's up though. It's
But
dope.
it's amazing. It's great.
It's great to see, man.
It's
great
great
to
like
see.
walking down the street. Like you get fruit, you get fish, you
bro.
get chicken.
Oh my
you
gosh!
get-
Like growing up, we lived
Bro.
on the beach,
That's
and
paradise. Come
we
on.
had all types of tropical fruits in our yard. We had almond, avocado. We call it butter pear in Liberia. We had papaya, bananas.
Bro, don't get me fruit, bro.
We out after this.
I'm telling you, bro,
Mango.
but you can't even get it in this country, bro. Like it's not the same.
Yeah.
It's not the
It's
same.
like so,
Same.
yeah.
It doesn't, bro. I have a mango tree, and I used to just eat the mangoes from
Oh
there.
my
It was
gosh.
the single best mango I've ever had in my entire life. Like, and it came straight from the tree that I saw. I watched the mango myself and peeled it myself. No one else touched it on earth. This was the best mango I've ever had.
And it's so like juice. I don't
Bro,
know.
I see. It don't even start,
My
bro.
mouth
Fruit.
is watering
Oh
right now.
man. I'm telling you, the air, water, everything is different, bro. The fruit is different. The food is different.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Nah, would you ever live there? Like, cause that's my like. I would love to retire there, go back, and just like.
Like that's to be honest, that's every Liberian's dream. Okay, I'm gonna retire and go back and live. I would want to live there, but not like for long periods.
Full
of
time, right? Yeah, I would do the same thing.
Like I would want to live there probably for like few months or probably 9 months and then come back and forth. So like I don't want to live there. But who knows? Like I always say, I don't want to do something, and then that's what happens.
I mean, we're so accustomed to traveling. That's why, like,
And
True.
I think so. Like I don't want to stay in one place
same
for
here.
too long. Except New York.
that in Europe. Have you ever been to Europe?
Yes.
Where?
I went to Geneva. I went
Right.
to
Oh yes, you
Paris.
said that.
Shout out
Yeah.
Geneva.
I actually wanted to move to Paris before I got the job that I'm now. But Paris has always been somewhere I want to live. It's just the culture. I'm like obsessed with French. I don't know why. I was like, why? Like I'm in West Africa. Why don't we speak French in my country? And then that's another like I have to learn history.
Yeah.
But I just love the language and
Yeah.
no, I love Paris.
It's a beautiful, beautiful city, bro.
Have
That
you?
city,
Yeah,
it's crazy.
Yeah,
That city's crazy, man. Like, there's so much to do, right?
Yeah.
It's like, I don't want to compare it to New York. It's its own entity, but like,
I prefer Paris than New York. It's crazy.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
I'm like a diehard New York fan. Like sports,
Right.
everything. Like
Right.
you can't. Yeah,
I hope you're not a Knicks fan.
I sure am.
Oh, that's rough. I'm sorry. I'm
I'm
so
a
sorry.
Yankees fan. I'm a Knicks fan. I'm a Giants fan, and then Nats and Jets.
You forget
and
them?
Mets come second. But, no,
That's what's up, though.
yeah.
That's what's up, though. It's good. You're loyal if you're a Knicks
Yeah.
fan. You gotta be loyal.
I don't know. I love the. I don't know. I'm not a Brooklyn person. Like, I'm not like.
Interesting.
Yeah, but.
Right.
But if they were, let's say they were in the finals or something.
Yeah, you
obviously,
rep. Of course.
yeah.
Of course.
Yeah,
Of
but,
course.
Yeah.
Without a doubt.
But I'm a diehard Yankees fan, so do you like baseball?
Not a big baseball guy. I'm not gonna lie to you. I'm not a big
Yeah.
baseball guy.
Yeah,
I went to my first game last year.
I'm really
Me
the
too.
Yankees.
Really?
Yeah.
Mets.
Oh, Mets.
I went to the Yankees
Queens.
Red Sox game. It was a good game, I think. I didn't know what was going on. I'm not gonna front. I'm not gonna lie to you. I was like, all right, it seems like good people going off, but I was like, I mean, this is dope and all, but I don't
The
know.
only reason
It
I
ain't
know
really my
about
thing.
like baseball is because my grandpa he used to like watch baseball.
Ah,
when I was
okay,
young.
okay.
Like and football too. So
Okay,
like I
okay.
understand all of that. I'm
Yeah,
like
yeah,
a
yeah.
sports girl. Like
Yeah.
you know,
That's what's up though.
I love sports.
100%.
Yeah.
You watched it here? Or
Yeah, here.
Oh, okay,
Not
gotcha.
Liberia. They don't remember.
I was like,
Baseball.
What,
what?
they know football.
Yeah,
you know?
football.
You, like
Yeah.
soccer. What soccer? Football. You know.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
do you keep in contact with your family in Liberia?
My sister, she actually moved. My parents got divorced, but my dad is back in Liberia, and my sister moved. She works for like the president there, so like yeah, a
That's what's up.
representative, like secretary. But I mean, I keep in contact with her. You know, she seems to love it there.
Are you set when you go back? I was just
I'm
the president. You just said, "I'm going to office when I go back."
You know George Weah?
Nah.
So he used to be like a professional football player, like well known.
Yeah.
One of the greatest football player, but now he's the president.
Wow.
Yeah, of
So he
Liberia.
used that to turn it into something else.
You know, connection.
No, I mean it's true though because I mean, like it's difficult, right? Over there, you have to have notoriety, you have to have money,
Yeah.
you have to have it. I mean, that's the problem with Africa, right? But say somebody that has that discipline, that got that discipline from sports or something along those lines,
Yeah.
and then transition that to office,
Yeah.
right? That could be a positive.
Yeah.
But then there's human nature, human error, right? We all get a little greedy on the
There's-
inside,
I
and
don't know. There's something about Africa and like,
Yeah,
the
corruption, man.
government. The corruption. It's and I don't even know how it's gonna change.
Yeah. Well,
it's got to be us.
Yeah.
To be
It has
honest,
to be us.
it's got to be
Yeah.
our minded the kids.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's the thing. It's always the youth that wants to change.
Yeah.
Like the older people, they're like, it is what it is. But like, it's
Yeah.
always us because we're full of like hope and,
Right.
and all that stuff. So we're like looking forward to changing stuff. And then I feel like you have kids, you have families, so then you could do less and less just personally. And so you're kind of just like, it is what
Yeah,
it is. Like,
yeah.
like they'll do it. Like the next generation will come along.
But
and
then
do
the
it.
next generation come in.
And
Yeah.
this- yeah.
and like the presidents and stuff, right? How long they don't have set terms,
Oh, so
or
yeah, they are.
has
So,
one been for a
Liberia's
while? Or?
actually democracy.
Yeah.
So they basically it's like America,
Uh-huh.
but I think he's in his second term now. No, not second. He's in his first. So it's like 6 years instead of 4.
And then you have to change.
Yeah. So Liberia actually had the first woman president in Africa.
No way.
Oh.
Yeah, Ali Salif Johnson.
Wow.
And she already did her term for
That's what's
2
up.
terms. You know,
Nice.
so
That's what's up.
but it's obviously I don't know, it's just something about African government and like
It's
the
difficult, bro.
leaders, like I don't know if they're thinking about themselves. Well, they probably
They are.
are.
Yeah.
You know,
100%.
you know, it's like, what about the people? You know,
Mhm.
like
I
how
mean,
is the government in Nigeria?
A joke.
Or
Actually,
government
let me not go there. But like, yeah, I mean, like it could be better, right?
Yeah.
Like to me, the issue is that everyone's very greedy, and so it's not that there isn't money; it's that it's in one place, right? So like in the U.S., there's a lot of money, but it's held by 1%.
Right.
But that 99% in the U.S. has more money
Right.
than, let's say, in Africa or an African nation, right? And so, I mean, like, an example, right? Like, you can go to Lagos and you can go to the airport. Man, I think this is the only airport in the world that when from start to finish, somebody's asking you for money. Bro, from start to finish.
Really?
No,
Bro,
You're
they'll
just
come.
walking
Bro, like, you understand? Like, they come. We get to the airport. Let me explain what it's like when we get to the airport. Boom, we get to the airport, we get out the car. And my dad got to give money to the driver. Cool. Driver takes off. We get over there. Before we even step out the car, there's somebody waiting there with a cart, ready to put all our bags over there. Okay, cool. They take it. You got to pay them off. Cool, whatever. You go. Then all the security guards, oh God, please do me lunch. Do me lunch. Please do me lunch. You get me? Like, which means like, yo, like, let me get some, you know, so I can, boom.
Yeah.
It's like, bro, like, what is going on? You know what I mean? Like, especially coming in as an adult, I'm like, bro, what? Or like, we'll be driving down the road, random stop,
Right.
5 dudes with AKs. You know what I mean? That's just how
Yeah,
dudes, there'll be police, 5 dudes with AKs. They'll stop you. Then my dad got to talk to him. Boom, boom, boom. All right.
And
Yo,
give
yeah.
me money so we can go.
You get what I'm saying? Like, and then if you don't got money, bro, you gotta be stopped there. They'll start pressing you, do XYZ. Like, and don't get me wrong, it's not like this everywhere in Nigeria, but like, you know, the rural parts of Nigeria, you could be like that.
Well, and they know when you got money, or like when you're.
They know because there's no middle class. It's either
Yeah.
you got money or you don't got nothing.
Yeah.
So it's very easy to spot out somebody that, I can get something from him.
Yeah.
I can get something from him. You get what I'm saying?
That's why sometimes I'm afraid when I go back. 'Cause
Yeah,
my
it's
sister's
crazy.
Like, oh, you gonna have to change your accent.
Yeah, because they know you're a
big time,
foreigner.
you know, and it's hard for me to really change it now because I've been
So-
here so long.
Yeah.
And she's like, now you have to go with me, and she's very protective. So she's like, you can't do this, you can't do that. So,
Yeah.
But I'm that type of person. When I go, I just wanna have fun. I haven't been back in a while, so it's
Right.
you know.
But if you're a foreigner, they try to take advantage. I mean, they do it here too. Don't get me wrong. In New York, you know what I'm saying? If they know you're
Oh,
a
if you're a
tourist,
tourist?
On
they
the
just
train.
they just make it nice and legal over here, or you know they might be a little
Especially
more
those
subtle
little-
with it, but it's the same
Those
stuff.
carts on there, like peanuts or
All that, bro. It's all
like,
the same.
Oh, $3 for a water bottle. No,
You get me?
I,
And,
said
like-
I live in Harlem. Thank
Yeah,
you.
right.
Yeah.
It's the same thing, bro. It's the
I
same
want
thing.
$1.
They do it They do it everywhere, man. They do it everywhere.
That happened to my parents. One time we were walking, and then my little sister, she wanted water or whatever, and then they were about to go inside and get it for like $3. I was like, wait, walk across the street, got it for $1, walk right back.
Bro,
Like,
it's crazy.
we don't do that
Yeah.
here.
But if you don't know, you don't
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, you gotta be
Yeah,
either
'cause
told
we're-
or taught.
We're up in Westchester, so they don't,
They just don't know.
Yeah. But it's the same in Cameroon. Like, as soon as you get to the airport, like, people will grab your bags. Like, they will literally, try to
But
grab
that's
it.
how they make
Yeah.
money, right?
Yeah.
The dude that's grabbing your bag has no money.
Yeah.
He goes home and he has damn near nothing.
Which is sad, you know.
It's sad.
Which is crazy. That's the problem,
Yeah.
right? Like, you don't give these people anything to sustain with, so they gotta hustle. Talk about hustle. You think people hustle here? Over there, they hustling for peanuts.
That's hustle. Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like doing 3 times the work for half the pay.
Right.
It's crazy, man.
Yeah, no, and that's one of the things that I wanted to talk about, because a lot of the times, like, I feel bad because I don't really keep up with African news. Like, I just saw one of the former presidents, I forget which country, Egypt. It was Egypt's former president, Hosni Mubarak. He passed away. But like, I didn't know unless I'm looking it up for the podcast. Like, I don't really check. It's not really in line with what I want to do for the day and stuff like that. So I want to make that a habit of checking and making sure I know what's going on, because like, otherwise I'll just talk to my cousin.
Right.
And like, a lot of things that are said here, like even with Gaddafi, like, that was a big ordeal. Like, and I was just like, just off of what CNN said, I was like, oh, it's bad, and then he was like, nah, it's not what you think. And he was
It's
like,
not even close.
You know how the media like twist things, and especially when you're living there.
like,
It gives me a headache.
No, I
can't
don't
do
watch
it.
news
Yeah,
anymore. I
can't.
used to watch. Well, I don't watch Fox News at all, but I used to watch CNN. But it's like just too much.
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
there's so much negativity and one-sided. It's like, no.
But,
Voice is yelling.
but I bet your parents still watch CNN.
Well, my dad doesn't because he watched BBC.
Okay,
You
so
know,
he
like,
watches some form of, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
that's like a huge theme that I keep seeing. Like, people's parents, especially like if you're first generation African, your parents are watching some form of like
Yeah.
world news religiously, bro. My dad will watch CNN until
C-SPAN?
the
My dad growing up, C-SPAN, you know C-SPAN?
Yes, the most boring news channel of all time.
And he would put it on.
Oh my god!
And just leave it on. That's it. Doesn't matter what he's doing.
We're gonna go play outside because nobody's watching C-SPAN. Like, I don't get C-SPAN, to be honest.
Yeah.
Nah,
crazy.
C-SPAN is boring as hell.
Like,
Crazy.
I don't know the whole purpose of C-SPAN. Like, growing up, I'm like,
I mean, it seems like better. It seems better than CNN. Like, they don't, CNN is just arguing.
Yeah.
Like, if it's not negative, it's just like five people on the screen.
I just turned it off.
Everybody's yelling like this person yelling at that person. This
Right.
person. It's like, fam, what is going on? Like, this is terrible.
Yeah, it gives me a headache. I can't watch anymore, to be honest.
And then you have this commentator say, like, they're just like you said, they're arguing, and it's like, what's the whole point?
And nothing is getting solved.
Yeah,
nothing at all is getting
solved.
solved.
And then they put the regular news like for 2 seconds. Like, okay,
yeah. It's like this happened today. It's like, oh, thanks. Like instead
I can
of
just Google that. And,
instead of you just yelling for 45 minutes, I could have just checked that.
It's difficult though, right? Because you feel like you need to stay informed, but how do you do that, right? Like, you can Google stuff, cool, but how do you know what's like, what's been vetted, what's truthful, what's not? Because everybody nowadays, you can spin anything, bro. There's too many clever people out here that can just, and they'll get it to the top of your thing when you search. So I know I struggle with that a lot because I know it's coming up on election year. I should be paying attention to who's this party, this law or this, whatever they're feeling. But I physically cannot bring myself to turn the remote to one of these news channels.
It's just draining.
I can't do it.
Hearing them, it's like, okay, what is the purpose of this? Are you informing us, or are you arguing and you just want to get your point across?
Yeah, bro. Like,
there's a difference wanting to have people be aware and then just put in your own
to
opinion.
be right.
Yeah. And I think that's with the news now. That's what they're all about. Like, you watch Fox News and it's like,
way this way, way that way.
See it,
I just turn it off
it's
like
2
seconds.
biased.
Like, sometimes, like, I want to watch both news stations just to see where they're coming from. Like, each,
like how they cover.
But no, like, it's like, I just roll my eyes every time and I turn it off because I'm like, I don't have time.
I don't even turn it on. I mean, one thing that I did now, because I'm on Twitter a lot, and so a lot of times you'll see like a headline, and then before I'll just like retweet it because like, oh, I agree, this is and then it'd come out like, a couple minutes, hours later, like, it's fake. And I'm like, God damn. And that happened multiple times. I'm like, I can't do that.
Right.
So then now, like, I would check the story. Like, I would see it, and then I would check it, see if it happened, blah, blah, blah. And then just like, all right, that didn't happen. That's fake. That's so, So
just
that's
for
how I
likes
do it.
and clicks.
That's the word.
Like,
I just get so skeptical, man.
I remember when Kobe passed, and my cousin, he sent me a video of like a helicopter like
tumbling, right?
Yeah. And I'm like, that doesn't seem real. I don't think that's Kobe's helicopter. And then I Googled it and researched, and it's like in Dubai, some helicopter that I'm like,
bro, like, chill.
People are just doing this and that's the thing about social media now. It's all about like likes and clicks. You just
clickbait, right?
Yeah, put anything out, and people who are gullible, they'll believe it. You don't know what's the truth. So
in that same token, actually, on the same topic is like, when I love Kobe. Like, Kobe's huge to me, right? So when he passed, I had maybe like 15 to 20 phone calls and like I don't even know how many texts, like within the first 10 minutes of it happening, right? And I can't tell you how many conflicting stories I got. Like, the first story was Kobe died, cool. Then the second story was all 4 of his daughters were on the helicopter with him. Okay, whatever. Then the next one was one of his old teammates, Rick Fox, I don't know if you guys know, was on the plane. You feel me? I'm like,
Rick
what?
Was like, nah,
you get me? Like, I remember like on Instagram I saw like Rick Fox's like, I think nephew or something was like, yo, my uncle's okay. Like, stop this.
That's
like, he's
terrible.
fine. Like people are calling him.
You looking at Rick Fox right here.
You know what I'm saying? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And like the fact that TMZ broke the knowledge to the family,
that's sad.
They broke it to everybody else before the family knew. Like, they found out through the internet. Yeah. Can you imagine being one of the little girls, and that's how you find out your father?
You're just going about your day, and then you just see online.
Nah, man, that's wrong to me. That part, hit
But this
hit a
is
different
the world
string.
we live in now. It's
Hand on my heart.
sad.
That's not what's up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But that's just how it goes, man.
It's sad.
But rest in peace to the late great Kobe
Rest in
Bryant,
peace
though.
to Kobe Bryant.
Yeah.
Yeah, man.
No, I
He's the man.
actually, it's crazy. I called out of work the next day because it was like, it's crazy.
Nah, it was
Yeah, it was
deep,
a
man.
Sunday, and it was
You
just
know,
like,
It
I'm
was
like,
deep, man.
I was actually taking a nap when I heard, and my sister called me. She's like, "You heard Kobe die?" I'm like, my sister.
Stop.
First of all, sometimes she gets celebrities' name wrong, so I'm like, "You
Must
sure
not have been
that's
Kobe."
Kobe?"
Right.
You know, you probably somebody else. She's like, "No, look at the news." So I googled it.
Crazy.
It's shocking because you're like,
Kobe,
Yeah.
bro.
you know.
It does-
Him of all
doesn't-
people,
yeah.
like, I don't.
And especially if you play sports, he was like,
Mhm.
like in general, Kobe,
Bro.
it's like a legend.
Yes.
But when you're like in sports, that's like the name you hear
Yeah,
all the
man.
time. Like even throwing your trash in
Kobe.
the Kobe.
Yeah.
It's like it was shocking to me. I'm like, I can't go to
Yeah.
work.
Yeah, we were talking about it before. I think it's like the biggest, the biggest death, and I honestly think it's bigger and more tragic than the passing of Michael Jackson,
Mm-hmm.
right? And this one's so close to us because it was like directly in our generation,
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
we grew up.
it grew up the
He's
same. Like,
41.
we grew up the same time as his career
Yeah.
went, right? Like when he hit the height, we started
Yeah.
understanding things, and we're like, oh, so this is the guy that's amazing at basketball. Cool, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Kobe was like the biggest, my number one favorite basketball player of all time. Like I've been a Laker fan my entire life, and like when I heard that, bro, like I remember the day after, the Monday, like you said, you called out of work. I unfortunately had to go to work, but I remember thinking to myself, I had this thought on Tuesday, but on Monday I remember thinking, yo, I did not smile yesterday. Like there was not one genuine
No.
smile that came out of me because I was like, I was hurt, bro. I'd be going through my day and randomly I'd be like, damn, Kobe?
Yeah.
And I
Yeah.
and I think it hurt even more because your social media
Oh man, I couldn't go on.
Yeah.
everywhere is like in your face.
Couldn't
You
go on,
can't
bro.
like. There's no way of
Yeah, you'd
escaping
be going,
it.
you'd be
Yeah.
scrolling through, seeing other stuff.
Yeah.
Like for the first couple of days, like that's all
Yeah.
you saw. You couldn't
Bro,
go on social media
couldn't
without
get away
seeing
from
it.
it.
But like, and
Even
then within
yesterday.
like the past week, like you just scroll,
Oh, yeah.
and then it would just randomly boom, like you just see it and just like, oh my.
Yeah.
And then just living in New York or a big city like 34th Street, that
Kobe.
Kobe.
I saw it
like,
on cabs. I saw it on everywhere, bro. It was
Everywhere,
crazy, man.
everything,
Yeah.
Every mad countries, like it's not just here; it's global.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, he
That's
was
the-
global. He transcended
yeah.
the sport.
like not even basketball, just like
He
sports
transcended the
in
sport, bro.
general.
Yeah,
Like
every single sport. did
soccer
the-
players, just like paying
Yeah.
him tribute and
Mm-hmm.
everything.
And he lived in Italy, so that's
Yeah.
you know.
I have to say though, I so much respect to his wife. Like I don't know if you guys watched it. I personally couldn't get through the whole thing of like her speech or whatnot. But like that woman, like clearly, like because we all know about like Kobe's mentality
Right.
and how he was all about like no BS, all business or whatever. And like to be at the level that he did, he needed somebody with him that was just as smart, competitive, intelligent, like all those things. And like me personally, when I'm watching, I could tell. Cause I'm like, yo, those girls are gonna be fine because they have that lady.
Right.
Like that lady is a trooper.
Yeah.
She is a troop. Like, bro, I
I was
commend
just
her.
saying, I don't even know
wholeheartedly.
how I would have, like, if I was her.
I couldn't.
She was so strong. Like,
Don't nobody talk to me. I don't want to see nobody.
No.
I probably won't even go to the memorial.
Yeah, I
like,
couldn't.
Yeah, nah.
She's a trooper, man. Just
Yeah.
kudos to her, man.
Yeah, she didn't have to do
Serious.
that at all, but
Nah, she didn't.
kudos to her. Rest in peace, Kobe Bryant.
Rest in peace, the legend.
The legend Kobe Bryant. Well, I mean, this is a sad note, but thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you for coming on the podcast. We appreciate it.
For sure.
Thank you for
It
Give
was a
having
great
me.
conversation.
Yeah, giving us insight on Liberia for real.
100%.
Everyone,
real.
check out Liberia.
Without a doubt.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely.
man.
Go check out Liberia.
2021. No, 2020. Forget that. 2020.
2020.
Liberia.
2020.
Liberia.
We out.
Yeah. And I wanted to end on a proverb. It's actually from Liberia. So I just wanted to choose one. It says, don't look where you fell, but where you slipped.
Huh,
It's
that's
interesting. That's
a
deep. I'm gonna have to mull that one over for a bit.
Don't look where you fell.
But where you slipped.
Interesting.
I'm trying to like
Process it,
do
right?
the Liberian accent
See-
too, and like because let me. See.
It's one of those proverbs that's gonna hit you a week later.
Yeah,
like,
you have to
damn,
really
that's
think
what they
about
meant.
You will actually fall.
What do you
Yeah,
think
like,
it-
oh
What do you
man.
think it means?
I think look at the root of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
Cause like I'm actually picturing falling, and it's
Yeah.
like
Yeah.
don't look at like the spot where you landed. Look at like what caused it
happened.
back there,
Yeah.
and so that's what caused it, and so that's why you feel like that's why you're here today. So like, kind of look at the root of it. And, you know, I think that's what it. That's
yeah,
what it
no,
is.
I agree too.
I agree with that.
Because if you look at what you know where you fell, you're gonna stay there.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
like what caused me to
Yeah.
do what I did. You know, so it's like analyzing.
And then if you
know.
don't realize what made you slip, then you're gonna fall
Right,
again
fall
next
again.
time. So
that's,
yeah,
that's good.
I like that. Yeah, don't dwell on the fact that you fell. Forget
Yeah.
that part.
Just get up, mama mentality. Just get up,
Mamba mentality.
keep going.
That's a good note to end on. Mamba mentality.
Right. Oh, okay. Mamba.
Right.
You know
Shout
how
out
we
to
do here in
Mamba.
Harlem. But yes, once again, this is the African Connection podcast.
Yes, sir.
Please hit it, look us up on Spotify. I'll have YouTube videos up and everything is coming. Where can they follow you online?
Instagram. You know, I wasn't a huge social media person, but I decided to be. So
Mm-hmm.
follow me, Mawi. My middle name,
Oh, she went full with it? Okay.
Yeah, so
Nice. We ain't hiding that no more.
no.
Let them know. Right.
But my platform is coming soon.
Awesome.
Maui Connection, uniting two worlds.
Keep an eye out for that one. For sure.
Here we go. Where can they find you, bro?
Real Benny. Real Benny with 2 N's and 2 Y's. Instagram, Twitter, Snapchat, the whole 9. I'm there.
Gotcha. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter, Life of Drew, LIFEOFDREW, 2 underscores after that. I have a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful episode of interviews with Drew up with my baby, the one and only Tadeja Coleman. So everybody go take a look.
She's shy. Look at
She's shy. Part 2 is coming tomorrow. Part 3 on Thursday. So yeah, we rocking with that on all fronts. So thank you once again. Thank you
for
everybody
having
for
me.
listening, and we'll see you guys next time.
Bless up.